Did you guys know that the Buccaneers with Antonio Brown this season is 5-0, but the Buccaneers without Antonio Brown this season, they're just 1-3? What the F is that all about? Combs, cues that intro.
You know on the beat every time, no. I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that while I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Combs. You know who coming to the stage. Sports talk than what you about to hear right here. I second that.
Go. You know that it's us when we talking about sports. Giving you facts on the field to the core. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, then listen some more. On all your stations, not dropping no music. Stripes like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs. You know what's going on. Man, now we're After Dark, no LA. We the big spark. No 4th and inches won't cut you short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzzer beaters. We coming live all through your speakers. Go.
And what is up, Man Hour Nation? Michael Blackasha here with the Man Hour. Head over to manhourradio.com and be sure to check out the merchandise page of the new Beastie merch is there. We do got the Take 22 merch, if you guys can see that. It's the suicide prevention little clothes thing with the takeaway 22. It feels good, it feels nice, it keeps my body all nice and warm and snuggly, and it's helping a great cause. All proceeds do help Wounded Warriors project here, guys. So be sure to check out the merchandise store at manhourradio.com and pick yourself up a takeaway 22 shirt or hoodie. All very good quality, and you can get it within just a couple days because, you know, holidays is right around the corner, and who doesn't need a brand new shirt? Also, guys, use promo code BEASTIE to expedite your shipping and get there in just 3 days. So bada bing, bada boom. Promo code BEASTIE at manhourradio.com at checkout. Get yourself a takeaway 22 shirt, and we got it. Guys, we do got a great show for you guys lined up tonight. We got Graeme Wallace himself joining us here in about 20 minutes here on the Man Hour with his weekly NFL power rankings. We got some spilled soup coming up in hour number 2. And of course, we got to talk some New York football Jets. We got to talk a little bit of Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Because that stat that we started the show with, guess what, guys? Antonio Brown is questionable for this weekend. So take that as you will. This week powering has been all about trends. This show is going to be all about trends. And the trend is right now that Henry Ruggs III is a POS. Let's just be flat out honest. So, guys, some breaking news in that Henry Ruggs III DUI case where he did kill that girl driving 156 miles an hour and her dog. As part of his release, his bail during his house arrest, so he could sustain his $50 or his $50 million house while being arrested, right? But he didn't fail. He chose not to do his first breathalyzer test. So he was scheduled to take a breathalyzer test more or less at 4:41 p.m. today as court ordered. I believe it's a weekly thing, right? He just chose basically not to come up and not do it, which is absolutely complete POS because he said there was a malfunction in his there's a malfunction with his equipment, I should say. He did take a self-test. Let me air quote that, self-test. I don't know what a self-breathalyzer test is, where you buy it from the gas station and says you're drunk or not. I don't freaking know. But he took that at 6:28 p.m. according to court documents. So, the alcohol monitoring agency noted that they cannot confirm Mr. Ruggs' sobriety at this time. So basically, a part of Henry Ruggs' release from jail, his bail during house arrest, was he has to take, I don't know if it's a weekly breathalyzer test or a daily breathalyzer test. Either way, he has to take a breathalyzer test for him to maintain out of jail. He didn't even do his first one. His first breathalyzer test, he didn't even do it. So when I was reading this story, I'm like, there has to be something that we're missing, right? There has to be something that is not adding up. No, he just flat out did not show up to court to take a freaking breathalyzer test. So if I am the district attorney, if I am the family of the person that got killed, I am immediately screaming to put Henry Ruggs in jail. This guy is living in a multi-million-dollar house, like I'm sure, living life. He's doing whatever the he wants. He's working out or doing whatever, right? Living the lives of luxury, and he can't even take a freaking breathalyzer test. This shows you what type of person that Henry Ruggs is coming out to be. Now, you can claim all this malfunction thing that you want. I don't give a crap. If you knew your equipment was malfunctioning, why did it take you 2 hours to do a self-test? It took you that long to call up your lawyer. I'm pretty sure if your equipment was malfunctioning, you would have called your lawyer right then and there. Your lawyer would have gotten in touch with the courts right then and there and say, hey, this equipment is not working, because they want to keep your ass out of jail. Now, the minimum sentence is like 2 years or like 18 months for his crimes that he has been charged with. And right now, why should he even get the minimum like at this point? There should be no doubt in my mind, pile on years and years and years. Henry Ruggs should not see the light of day. You had one job, and that was to take a freaking breathalyzer at 4:30 in the afternoon, and you couldn't do that. Do you know what that tells everybody in the courts? What does that tell your lawyers? What does that tell the people in the media? What does that tell people on Twitter or Facebook or whatever? You've been drinking. That's what it comes down to be. Like, to me, when you fail to take a breathalyzer test at extended time, that means you've been drinking. Right? Guys, in the comments, let me know. Let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts, because I would love to see that as well. So we do have some people popping up in the chat. I see Trace is always over there on the Twitter machine. What's up, Trace? We got Trent as well. We got Alpha Rob. We got Drew. What's going on, guys? What's going on? What's going on? Alpha Rob, comes out and says, I noticed no one ever mentioned this, but they went on and on about Rodgers. Who went on and on about Rodgers? Are you referring to the reckless driving with Henry Ruggs, or are you referring to like people like last night on the show, or what? Because like I know Combs never said. Sorry, Drew. Let me allow your message here, because get over there, mouse. There it goes. Yeah. So Henry Ruggs, guys, is a POS right now. When you fail, or sorry, if you don't take it, do you fail it? Like for my law enforcement people, or people with the smarter minds than me, right? Do you, when you don't take it, is a automatic fail? I would take that as a yes. In my mind, in the back of my head, if I am refusing to do something XYZ, it's because one, I don't know how to do it, or two, I know I'm going to fail it. So why say the humiliation of me failing it if I know I'm going to fail it, right? So yeah. So Alpha Rob says, I noticed that no one ever mentioned this, but they went on and on about Rodgers, all those other sports media guys on TV. So I'm assuming, Alpha Rob, you are referring to Aaron Rodgers' toe. We will get into that in hour number 2. I do have that written down to cover a little bit of Aaron Rodgers, because he is the GOAT, and we will talk about his nagging toe or whatever it is. And Drew says, no, it is not a fail. Drew, it has to be a fail, right? If you fail to take it, it is a automatic fail in my mind. It's contempt / failure to follow a court order. Okay, so it's a fail, right? It's a failure to follow a court order, which should end you back up in the slammer. If it was me, let's say I got a DUI, which I will never get a DUI, but let's say I got a DUI and I am court ordered to take a drug test at XYZ time. If I don't take that drug test at XYZ time, they are going to revoke my bond, and because I for one, failed to show up to court, I'm in contempt of court, and a failure to appear, and like all that crap, right? Throw your ass back in the slammer. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But that's here nor there, I guess. All we do know, guys, the common consensus in the Buck household is that he is a piece of shit. Flat out, no way around it, no strings attached. He is a POS. So moving on. That's enough Henry Ruggs talk. It is time to talk about the GOAT himself. That's right, the GOAT. And we're not talking about Tom Brady. We're not talking about Aaron Rodgers. Hell, we're not even talking about Patrick Mahomes. We are talking Mr. Mike White, Mr. Should have been #1 overall pick himself. I was in a interesting conversation today, and this conversation was that Zach Wilson should be cut by the New York Jets in order for Mike White to progress in the Jets system. Basically saying Mike White is better than Zach Wilson. On hindsight, what is your first thought on that? Hell no. Hell no, Zach Wilson is better than Mike White. Hands down. You cannot throw Zach Wilson under the bus, yada, 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 right? But then I went back and I had some times on my hands this afternoon. I sat back and I gathered my thoughts, and I'm like, damn, is Mike White really better than Zach Wilson? That can't be true. That can't be true, right? No. Well, guess what, guys? I went back and I watched 3 games of Zach Wilson. Granted, they were week 1, week 2, week 3. He did not do well those games at all. And the game seemed to be moving too fast for him per se. He was making bad reads. He had happy feet. He just wasn't grasping the NFL game per se, right? Now, when I watched Mike White, I only watched 2 games of his. I watched his 400-yard game and then the 4 or 5 interception game as well. Those are the two games that I think those are the only 2 games that he played, if I'm not mistaken. Game 1, he looked great. Very, very confident out there, walking up with your chest out, excited to play. The team was rallying around him. Yada, yada, rah, 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 right. This is my team. I'm leading you guys to the promised land. And they played great. They played absolutely great. And then second game come along. Yes, he had those 4 interceptions, but he still had his chest up. He still had confidence in himself. He had that Gardner Minshew swagger. Gardner Minshew's a piece of crap. Worst quarterback in the NFL. Don't get that twisted. But he has that swagger about him. He has that, what the kids call it, the aura around him, right? He had that aura like, you know what? I'm cool. I'm cool as the other side of the pillow, as my man Stuart Scott used to say way back in the day, right? But he had a little bit of happy feet. Was it because he was getting popped in the mouth quite often? Maybe. Was it the fact that they had film on him and they knew how to exploit his weaknesses? Maybe. Or was it the fact that they just played the Patriots? I mean, what's it, the Patriots? I can't even remember who they played off the top of my head. No, it was the Buffalo Bills, right? The Buffalo Bills. So then I come to the conclusion, is Zach Wilson worse or better than Mike White, or is Mike White better than Zach Wilson? And the answer to that question, guys, is looking beyond the tape, looking between the lines, looking between plays, right? Looking from the whistle to whistle, not between whistles, but from whistle to whistle. How did the team react around Mike White? They seemed to have more faith in Mike White. They were helping him up. They were coming to his aid. They were patting him on his back. They weren't doing that for Zach. Now, could it be because Zach has that swagger, that aura, and he hasn't earned anything in the NFL? He was a week 1 rookie starter, and he's like, I'm the man. This is my team. I'm leading you guys to the promised land. Like who the hell are you? You sucked during preseason, and you suck now. Could very well be true. But my consensus after watching those games is that Mike White is better than Zach Wilson. I think Mike White has a higher ceiling and a higher floor than Zach Wilson. What does that mean? I think with Mike White, you are going to get this steady level of play. Will he wow you? 1 or 2 games fits Patrick-ish, right? But his bad games are not going to be as bad as Zach Wilson's games are. I feel like even dating back to college, I did watch a couple college highlights as well. Granted, during the highlights, it's the best of the best plays like out there. But it also seemed like When Zach Wilson is up, he is up. But when he is down, he is down. There is no steady mediocre point. Mike White is a more steady mediocre point. And I think longevity, he would have a better career than Zach Wilson on the New York Jets. So in a roundabout way, Mike White is better than Zach Wilson. So let me know what you guys think about that in the chat. Who is better? Is it Zach Wilson, or as Tori says, Jack the Trash Wilson, or is it Mike, I'm a flash in the pan, White? So guys, let me know who is going to have the better career in New York. So then Drew comes out and says Mike White got to sit down a couple seasons before starting. You are absolutely correct. I believe Mike White was drafted in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. On the flip side of that, Mike White was also in a different system before that. He was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, if I am not mistaken on that aspect. So he got to be a part of, no, Jason Garrett wasn't there. It was the Kellen Moore, right? So he got to learn from Kellen Moore for a year or two before going to New York. So he doesn't have that New York stench on him, right? Does that make sense? Because let's be honest, Sam Darnold has that stench. Zach Wilson has that stench. Now with that being said, I did read an article today that Mike White won't be starting this week versus the Dolphins. It will be Joe Flacco. So with that being said, yeah, I just saw Alpha Rob's comment come up. Yeah, so Joe Flacco is starting this week versus the Miami Dolphins. Now, why is that? I don't know. Could it be because of Mike White's 4 interception game? Could it be because he has a nagging foot injury or a finger injury or something to that effect? Or is it because that the New York Jets want to totally shut down any quarterback controversy that they might have? So I think it's the latter part of that. I think the New York Jets want to shut down any quarterback controversy that they could possibly have with Zach Wilson or Mike White. That is why Mike White will not be starting this week versus the Miami Dolphins, and that's why Mike White will not be on the New York Jets next year. He will be on some other team next year because they don't want any type of quarterback controversy in New York at all. New York Jets, he was a 5th overall pick or something like that. I can't even remember but he was a top overall pick, right? He was taken before Mac Jones. Mac Jones is having a great season. So you don't want to look like a failure year one if you are the Jets head coach. Was that Saleh, right? So Saleh doesn't want to look like a failure in New York when they have the quarterback controversy and their number 1 overall pick is on the bench for next season. That's why Mike White is not starting this week versus the Miami Dolphins, and Joe Flacco is. Also, on the flip side of that, the reason why Mike White will not be on the Jets next season is because of that very reason that I just said. When you go into the off season, the quickest way to lose the locker room is to not be starting the best player on the team, to not be playing the best quarterback on the team. That's why I am surprised Robert Flores has lost to Miami Dolphins because he didn't play the best quarterback on the team. He sat Ryan Fitzpatrick, week 7, week 8, and plays 4-2 and then called the relief every fourth quarter to come save his ass. But we digress from that. So when you go into the offseason, hell, when you come back, when you go into week 12, when Zach Wilson comes back, there's going to be that there's going to be that head button there. Like, hey, the fans are going to be screaming because, just be honest, Jets fans don't know what winning is. So when they get a little bit of taste of it, they want all that sauce, right? Give us Mike White, give us Mike White, give us Mike White. They don't want any aspect of Zach Trash Wilson in there. So Mike White will probably not play a snap for the rest of the season unless Zach Wilson is still hurt, or Joe Flacco gets hurt versus my Miami Dolphins, which he's like, 38 years old or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, definitely a very good chance he could possibly get hurt. But with that being said, we're going to digress on that a little bit and jump into the comments here. So Drew says they got Flacco for a reason because Zach was injured. Yeah, they got Joe Flacco to be a backup there, Drew. They didn't have Joe Flacco to come in to be a starter. They got Joe Flacco in there to teach these young quarterbacks, i.e. Zach Wilson, to be a better quarterback. Joe Flacco was never traded there to play. Let's just be honest. What this is Joe Flacco's third team in 3 years, Broncos, and then with the Eagles, right? Or no, where's he at? I can't. Yeah, it was the Broncos and then Eagles and then now the Jets. So three teams in 3 years. He was there simply as a placeholder quarterback, as a backup position until Zach Wilson came back. And then also if Mike White played absolutely dog shit horrible. Mike White played great his first game. They played dog shit horrible weak his second game, but that was also against the best defense in the NFL. Right, Alpha Rob, are the Broncos are the Bills your team? I can't remember for sure. But Drew, Joe Flacco was not there to play a game. He was there to simply help the quarterbacks come along because Zach Wilson is complete trash right now. Drew says he was with the Jets before, so yeah, but didn't. So he went from the Broncos to the Jets to the Eagles back to the Jets. So that could be 4 teams, right? And like in theory, if you want to go that route, but mark my words, Mike White will not be a part of the New York Jets next year because of this very reason. No quarterback controversy. Speaking of controversy, my man, Mr. Graeme Wallace at Bus Wallace on the Twitter machine and Instagram released his power rankings this week. And when I say he released, there's some questions that I have for you, Graeme. What's going on tonight, bud? Yeah. Oh, you came to the right place because, oh, man, I am brewing tonight, man. When I saw that stuff, I'm like, wait. But first, we have to give you a proper intro. Welcome to the show, man. Welcome to the Man Hour. Before we get too carried away, tell the people what you are all about.
upsports.com and the MLB tab. Stick and stay throughout the MLB offseason for some great content there.
Yeah, so I actually read that emoji reaction article, and how did you come up with those emojis? I'm just kind of curious.
I kind of was writing and I kind of went with what I felt like I was feeling. I was kind of had a conversation with myself, like, Graeme, how would this make you feel? And I tried to put that into emoticon form or emoji form, I guess.
Right.
Some people got it, some people don't get it, but I tried to do something a little bit different, a little bit fun. So
yeah, I could probably say if you're about 38 or 40 over, you have no idea what an emoji is, right? Or they always use like the prayer hands or the shake my head or like whatever, right? and that's all they know. So my wife is a emoji queen, right? Like all of her names got like emojis on them, and she's always like, "Hey, I'm taking a poop," and it has like the little ice cream thing, and it's like, come on, man, like I don't need to hear it, like hear that. But let's get into the power rankings here, and
yes, sir.
Let's start at the bottom here, and we all have to agree with your bottom 5, bottom 6, right? But then we jump up to number 26 here, Washington football team. Taylor Heineke and the rest of the boys. Yes, Chase Young went down with the ACL injury, second or third quarter, but they laid the beat down on the Bucs. How How in God's green gracious do you even not have them in the top 25? You gave them with a little bit of sprinkle to 26. Like, hey, you guys are a little bit better than last week. They beat the best team in the NFC. How are they not higher?
I think I had them down at about 29 or so last week, so I did move them a bit of a boost. The case could be made that they could be up as high as 24, maybe where I have the Seahawks right now.
Yep.
I just don't have a lot of faith in this team. I think Taylor Heineke's a tough young man that does not a great quarterback make. However, he's actually come up with 2 big-time performances against the Buccaneers. If we remember back to the wild card game last year, he played his guts out. He really played a good game. He had that kind of hurdling touchdown run when he somehow got it in. He showed a lot of guts in that game. I like this kid. I just don't really think he's a long-term answer for the football team there in Washington. Chase Young going down is a big blow to the defense, certainly. 3-6, I think a lot of people thought they were going to be competitive in this division, maybe a 9 or 10 win team. They're going to be hard pressed to get to that total. So I'm willing to say maybe I could have had them a couple of spots higher, but I think this was kind of a nice win for what's been a poor season.
Yeah, so speaking of a couple spots higher, you do have the Philadelphia Eagles sitting there at a couple spots higher. They seem to be kind of sneaking up on a lot of teams as of late. I mean, they are 4-6, but heck, they're second in the NFC East, and the Cowboys stumble 1 or 2 games. They could easily be right in first place in a playoff bound team, but you have them sitting at number 23. What's up with that?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting year in Philadelphia. I think the main thing they want to see is Jalen Hurts the quarterback or a potential answer for them at quarterback. And I think the answer is incomplete. We're not sure yet. He's done things that I saw some stat. He had over 500 yards rushing so far and over 2,000 yards passing in the first 10 games of a season. And I think that hasn't been done. People can get at me in the comments if that's incorrect, but it was something like that. I just don't think they're quite there yet. They're going to need to add to their team, but Hurts is showing that he could potentially be the answer for them at quarterback, at least for them to, move it into next season and see how it goes. However, I don't think they're going to be near Dallas as far as the NFC East is concerned, but they could maybe slide into one of those bottom wildcard spots. We were talking last week, who's going to make that final wildcard spot? Is it going to be the Falcons, the Panthers, maybe the Eagles? Who knows? It's probably going to be a not great team that gets in there. So they still have a lot of things to play for in these last 7 games. And I like what I've seen out of Hurts.
Yeah, so I was actually totally trolling there. My man's Blake is in the chat here tonight, and he's an Eagles fan. The Eagles are a complete trash. They are a dumpster fire, and they beat a bad Broncos team. Congratulations, guys. But we digress from that a little bit here. Sitting at number 19, though, you do have the San Francisco 49ers. I believe they only have 3 wins on the season, maybe 4 now. After the beatdown of the Rams, only 19, though. Is it because of their other games, or is it because you don't have any faith in them either?
A lot of it did have to do with their other games. They just looked really poor in a couple of those matchups. I believe against the Indianapolis Colts and the game before that as well. Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't looked as sharp as he has in seasons past. They've got a pretty good run game going. It doesn't seem to matter who's in there. Elijah Mitchell's kind of been the hot hand lately.
Right.
I think Brandon Ayuk is a guy who's a fairly high draft pick who hasn't really been as productive as they thought. The defense has been disappointing at times. However, they really put it all together in that Monday night showdown and completely shut down the Rams, who, we're going to get to them later, but they didn't play a good game at all. But 49ers definitely came to play. They're 4-5 now, and they're another one of those teams. We kind of talked about some teams that could be in the mix for that final playoff spot. Right. If the 49ers get into that spot with, say, 8 or 9 wins, they could be a really dangerous team come January because they are a battle-tested team under Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at their schedule, they played the Packers, the Cardinals twice, the Colts, the Bears, and then the Rams. So, they definitely had that battle-tested field. However, those were all losses, just throwing it out there. But just to round up the 15 through 10 there before we jump into number 10. At number 15, you do have the Carolina Panthers. Is this the Cam Newton effect, or you actually have belief in the Carolina Panthers?
Buck, they came into this game with the number 2 rated defense in the NFL.
Yeah.
I've been kind of saying this all season, but I think Phil Snow is a kind of underrated guy. He's got that defense flying around there. Obviously, Cam Newton, it was more of a kind of an emotional, inspirational boost.
Mhm.
PJ Walker actually got the majority of the snaps in that game, and he actually played quite well. Um, I don't know. Apparently, they're grooming Newton to be the starter for the rest of the season, or at least this upcoming week. At least take
Yeah.
the majority of the snaps. I think this is a decent team, but I think year 3 with Matt Rule will really see him really shape the identities of this team. Maybe get a few more free agents. Draft a few players, and that'll be the year when they really kind of get things cranked up there in the Carolinas.
Yeah, I mean, the Carolina Panthers are a team that's like just like sinking shit because they don't know whether they're going up or down. Basically, the only identity that they have is CMC. But we do know what their identity is. Sitting at number 10, they went from last in the AFC West to the first in the AFC West with a simple win over the Raiders on Monday night. Not just a simple win; it was a beatdown. But coming in at number 10, you do have the Kansas City Chiefs. Tell me why.
Well, I saw what I needed to see, Buck. They passed the eye test, just a thorough beatdown, like you said, of the Raiders on Sunday night. Mahomes looked like the Patrick Mahomes we've enjoyed and loved watching for the past 3 seasons. He looked sharp. We saw Kelsey. I liked that they got Nicole Hardman involved on a few of the runs and different things,
Yeah.
a couple of long pass plays as well. I think they need to do that, kind of mix it up with those receivers and the different things. Also, a beautiful throw by Mahomes, kind of a typical Mahomes throw across his body to Darrell Williams there in the end zone. It looked like it was going to be maybe intercepted, but of course he threads the needle right into
Right.
the end zone there. So the defense looked pretty good from what I saw as well, and they're right there where they want to be. 6-4, they're somehow in the top of the AFC West, and everything's right there in front of them. So if they could go on a similar run like they did in, I believe it was 2019, when they I think they won their last 5 games of the regular season. The defense was forcing turnovers,
Yeah.
and the offense was nonstop. This could be a really dangerous team. I didn't want to put them up too high, but I think they deserve to be in the top 10 at this point.
Yeah. So speaking of team that many people don't want to put too high, maybe not buy into this Bill Belichick effect, but that's the number 9 coming team. Is that the New England Patriots? They have now won 4 games in a row in 5 of their last 6.
Yeah.
Patriots looks good, and you as a Bills fan got to get nervous like a little bit, right?
Maybe a little bit. They're just a half game behind the Bills. I think a lot of people thought that the Patriots would be better, but not quite ready to be a contender quite in that division just yet. I think a lot of people kind of were almost handing the division to the Bills. They've had a couple slip ups, as we've talked about with against the Jaguars, and even the Tennessee game was a game they probably could have won. But I just been really impressed with Mac Jones. He just seems like a savvy vet out there. The defense is making some good plays, especially in the secondary, and they've got a nice kind of balanced offense with some of the different receivers. Hunter Henry's having a nice season as well. So they're a dangerous team. They're playing with a lot of confidence right now, and Bill Belichick, he's always going to maximize the efforts of his players. So definitely an interesting team heading into the last the stretch run of the season.
Yeah, and speaking of a interesting team and some slip-ups, that's who you have coming in at number 8 is a slip-up, I think. I think you just mistyped that, but the Baltimore Ravens do come in at number 8. They have only won 1 of their last 3 versus the Minnesota Vikings, getting thumped by the Bengals. Now we're looking like the Bengals, like, who are the Bengals? And they got murdered by the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. Ravens at 8. A little high still, maybe?
You could say that it's a little bit high. However, at 6-3, they're still a top spot in the AFC North. That's been just such a weird division. You never know what you're going to get from really any of these teams. They're so inconsistent. The winner of this division might get to 10 wins, and that might be enough this year. That Thursday night game, obviously Thursday night football is not the greatest thing on the planet. It's a pretty usually some pretty poor games, but it seemed like one of those games where Lamar Jackson just it didn't have it going, and then he somehow got it going in the fourth quarter and pulled the rabbit out of the hat and pulled the victory from the clenches of defeat or whatever. But that didn't happen. Dolphins seem to have him figured out. I don't know if the rest of the NFL is figuring out the rest of that offense, but not a good performance at all. I'm willing to kind of give them a bit of a pass, but they have had a couple of shaky games this season. Obviously, the Bengals game comes to mind as well.
Yeah, I mean, Thursday night games when you're on the road after a short week, after a big game versus the Vikings, I mean, yeah, I do kind of give them the benefit of the doubt, but I also want to see Lamar Jackson play a complete game, which he hasn't done all season, except for the versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Speaking of playing complete games, the Rams didn't even play a quarter on Monday night versus the 49ers, and that's who you have coming in at number 7. They have lost 2 of their last 3 as well after they winning, they were 7-1, 8-1, and then they lost to the Titans and lost to the 49ers. Two very bad losses still coming in at number 7. Do you have the Odell Beckham Jr. effect in there, even with Robert Woods out?
Yeah, it was funny. I had the Manning megacast going. First play of the game, nice 5-yard out. It seemed like they got him, got him the ball right away, and then I think it was maybe a little bit later on in that drive. I think it got to the 3rd down, and Stafford just airs one out, and I'm like, what the heck happened on that throw? And it seemed like Beckham kind of gave up on that play,
Yeah.
which isn't necessarily super surprising, but it was also kind of a bit of a surprising kind of leap of faith that Stafford showed in Beckham there. He's looked kind of bad with some of the throws, and I can't say I'm really surprised. A lot of people, he made. He put up some great numbers in Detroit, but he also had some pretty shaky games and some pretty questionable throws. And he's really not a guy who's battle tested. He's only been in the playoffs, I believe, a couple of times, two or maybe 3 times. He went to the playoffs with the Lions. I think 3 times. Obviously, one and done all of those performances. So
Right.
maybe some of the pressure is starting to get to Stafford. They're still 7-3. They're still in a pretty good spot in that division, just a game behind the Cardinals. So I didn't want to drop them down too low, but they've got to turn things around and fast.
So this whole show, this whole week, this whole power rankings, Graham, has been trends, right? And right now, these last 3 teams have trended 2 losses to 1 win their last 3 weeks. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fit that trend as well. Also, fun fact here, when Antonio Brown is in the game or starts the game for the Bucs, they are 5-0. When he doesn't play, they are 1-3. But you still having him at number 6, and Antonio Brown is questionable for this week. Why you still have him at number 6 after dropping two games in a row?
Yeah, they have dropped 2 games in a row, and they haven't looked great in doing so. But I'm just going to remind you, they also dropped 2 games in a row last season to fall to 7-5 at that showdown with Patrick Mahomes. And I'll remember Tony Romo saying it. I think we're going to see these 2 teams again. And it seemed like a really bold proclamation by Romo, who's obviously become such a brilliant guy in this game, and he turned out to be dead right. So I'm not necessarily saying that they're going to get back to the Super Bowl. What I'm saying is don't panic too much, Bucks Nation. I think they're going to be just fine. For whatever reason, Ron Rivera and that football team defense seems to really have a good handle on this Bucks offense. The Antonio Brown thing, I don't know. There must be something there. Brady seems to really like to go to him a lot, but if you think about some of the other receivers that they have in there, and even some of the unheralded guys, they typically get the job done. So, some questionable turnovers certainly by Brady. I believe he's thrown 2 interceptions in each of the last 2 games. That's not something you usually see a lot of. So
Right.
I think they'll probably figure it out for the next game, maybe pound the run game a bit more and try to get a win by any means necessary.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, this is about the time last year when Tom Brady took over the play calling and they didn't lose a game for the rest of the year, right? So
You got it.
only time will tell. And so speaking of trends, loss, win, their last 4 for your Buffalo Bills, which are coming in at number 5. And I see people in the chat, they were kind of jumping down my throat about, comparing the Pats and the Bills about the talent level. Obviously, you think highly of the Bills. You take your fandom out of it. The Bills have a very good defense. But does number 5 warrant them? Because if their trend is correct, they're going to lose this week versus the Colts.
Yeah, they had a really close game with the Colts last time they faced them in that AFC wildcard playoff game. It came right down to the wire, Colts are playing some pretty good football right now. But I really, very similar to what we were talking about with the Chiefs, I saw what I needed to see with the Bills. They
Yeah.
inserted Matt Breida into the lineup, and he scored a couple of touchdowns. He looked really good doing so. I think he could be kind of a missing element in this offense. If you think about the running back tandem of Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, it's kind of a lightning and thunder combination, but Matt Breida brings something a little bit different than just speed or power. He's a really good receiving back. He does have pretty good breakaway speed too. They got Dawson Knox back in the lineup, who could be a bit of an X factor as well. And the defense was just all over the Jets, swarming them, 4 interceptions. This is what I need to see. And I think this is more indicative to the type of team this is. A lot of people still think the Bills are the best team in the AFC.
Yeah, and that many people starts with you as a fan as well, and also Alpha Rob, he's a huge Bills fan as well. But I did hear a little bird tweet in my ear earlier today, and I hear that Marshawn Lynch is making an appearance in Western New York this weekend. So,
wow,
maybe to sign for the team and run the ball. I totally doubt it, but yeah, he is there to pump up Bills Mafia this week versus the Colts. So maybe they will break that trend. But this is a trend that I really, really like here. And this team is trending up. They lost week 1, then they won 7 in a row. They lost the next week, so that means they're going to win the next 6 games in a row because they beat down the Falcons 43-3, and that is the Dallas Cowboys coming in at number 4.
Yeah, they great bounce back game for them. It's funny. I was talking about the Falcons last week, how they could maybe, who knows, maybe find themselves in the playoff mix, and they just absolutely lay a huge egg in that game against the Dallas Cowboys. They were just trying to get out of the half down 25, and they couldn't even do that. The punt block leads to the touchdown, and that's pretty much all she wrote. Prescott looked really good in kind of a, like I said, a bounce back performance for him. The defense was all over the Falcons, and this offense is really running on all cylinders right now. If you think about the two-headed monster at running back, the plethora of options through the air. I really like this team. I know you've been kind of all over this wagon all season, and I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you, Buck. I think they could get back to at least a championship game for the first time since the 90s, I believe. This is a really good team. They're better than I thought they would be entering the season. They passed the eye test. Really, the only letdown was last week against the Broncos, or a couple weeks ago, I guess I should say. Their only other loss was a 2-point loss on opening night against the Bucs. So very consistent throughout the season.
So let me ask you this. We kind of had this conversation last night. I want to ask your opinion just to get the feel of it. With this 17-game season, do you think teams are taking that extra game off? Like, do you think they have some games circled on the calendar, whether it be week 4 or week 10, right? Like, they're like saying, hey, we aren't going to really take this game that serious. Do you think maybe that was the Cowboys game versus the Broncos?
Gosh, I mean, you'd probably know this better than me, Buck. You played the game at a fairly high level, but I just think football, it's such an intense game, such a violent game, physical game, that you really can't go into any game thinking that, because you're probably going to get hurt, and things could go really, really south from there.
Right.
Maybe there was a bit of a lack of focus and it just kind of snowballed, but we've seen this from several teams, and several good teams just have just a really crappy performance against a lot of times and not a very good team. So doubt kind of starts to creep in. Were they did they have their ultimate focus? Did they have a bad week of practice? Is there something else going on in their lives? Who knows, right? But I'd like to think that there's no teams punting on any games, but who knows?
Well, I can tell you from a player standpoint, no, the players will always give 100% effort. Now, the coaching staff, we probably have 1 or 2 games circled, like, hey, we can just play base this particular game.
Okay,
and
I
be
see
totally
what you're saying.
fine. Yeah. So that's kind of like the vibe that I got. They just really weren't like, excited to play. I like it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It just seems off to me.
I could see them having a bit more of a vanilla game plan. We're just going to run base defense and, some slant goes and a few quarterback, pitches or whatever. I could see them doing that, but I like to to believe maybe that's not the case.
Yeah,
Just
so
from a competition standpoint, you
yeah,
know.
and the Red Sea thinks that as well because they think, hey, we can just show up and win the game counts. But right now they're sitting at 8-2. You still have them at number 3 at their power rankings, but they have dropped 2 of their last 3 as well, which much of the top 10 except for the Cowboys and the Chiefs. But we'll digress on that. Why you still got the Cardinals at number 3 after getting beat by the Packers with no receivers and then getting beat by a Carolina team?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it has to do with some of the personnel that's been missing. I mean, obviously, they came out with a great performance against the 49ers with Colt McCoy, no Hopkins, no AJ Green, um, just a really good game. I was watching some of the ESPN pregame show, and every single analyst they picked Arizona. And how many times have we seen this? The upset
Yep.
happens, and this game wasn't even close. Obviously, we talked about the Cam Newton couple of touchdowns to start the game, and they tacked on a few field goals, and Arizona never really made a run, which has to be disheartening in a home game. Colt McCoy was not nearly as efficient or sharp as he was a couple of weeks ago. He
Right.
has proven to be a decent backup, but just he made a couple of dumb throws in this game, and they just weren't able to recover from it. I'm willing to say it was a bad game. If they could get Kyler Murray back, I still think this could be the champion of that division. Um, because no one's really playing well except for, I guess, 49ers are the only team coming off a win right now, but
Yeah.
they got to get it together pretty quickly, I would think.
Yeah, and to be honest, we all sat right here back in February or March and said that the NFC West was the best division in football, hands down. I think everybody had every team at least 10 wins, so that's still a possibility. Probably not going to happen, but it's still a possibility, and they could get all 4 teams in the wild card mix. So just
Yeah, we'll
crazy.
see about Seattle. I don't know.
Yeah, still a possibility. But speaking of still a possibility, it is still a possibility that this number 2 team can get past the NFC Championship game for more than once in their career, and that's the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers looked decent against the Seattle Seahawks, looked decent against the Kansas City Chiefs, looked decent against the Cardinals. That defense looked great. Packers at number 2. Why are they not the best team in the NFL?
You could certainly make the case for that. I believe they were at the top spot a few weeks ago. Joe Barry's got his defense really playing at a high level. I think there were some question marks about him after the first couple of games of the season. People thought, why did they hire this guy?
Right.
But they're starting to play a lot better. And I really like what I saw out of the running back Dillon. He scored both touchdowns against Seattle. They're making some good plays in the secondary too. Darnell Savage looks like he could be a real playmaker for them. So, if someone had them at number 1, I wouldn't hate that. I definitely think they're in the mix. Rodgers seems to be playing his way back into it. He didn't look great on Sunday, but he certainly looked better than he did a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Or wait, excuse me, sorry, 2 weeks ago he didn't play, so he
Yeah.
didn't look very good at all. But he's got kind of getting back into his rhythm. I think you could make a case this is the best team in the NFC. Is it the best team in the NFL? They could be, but right now I have another team at that top spot.
Yeah, and you feel like you've been kind of waffling around. They could be, and you do have the Tennessee Titans at number 1, minus Derrick Henry. AP is aging. He probably won't last too much longer. But right now they're at number 1. I believe they're 8-2 on the season as well, along with the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys and Arizona Cardinals are 3 losses or 2. Yeah, and I think the Cardinals
they're 8-2 as well. So
Yeah,
all
so-
3 of those teams have the same record. Yeah.
So as of right now, the Titans, you do have them at number 1. Why?
I just think this is a really tough team that finds ways to win. Now, you could make the case that they got a little bit lucky in the game against the Saints. A pretty soft roughing the passer penalty was assessed on Ryan Tannehill. I'm not sure if you saw it, but they were trying to say that it was a hit to the head, and it was clearly not to the head, and it wasn't even that late. They were able to punch it in a couple plays later. So they were certainly fortunate with that. I think it was a fake to Peterson. They ended up going to Michael Pruitt. I actually really like the 3 tight ends they have. Ryan Tannehill's playing at a pretty high level right now, and I know they're missing Derrick Henry, but I think they're able to do it a by committee approach there with the running backs. They play together as a unit on defense, and I've talked about this a lot. Mike Vrabel, I think, is really becoming one of the better coaches in the NFL, and this team really takes on his personality of just a take no prisoners, tough as nails kind of guy, and they're proving themselves to be that. I think they deserve this top spot, and we'll see what they do with it. A lot of teams they they see me put them at the number one spot, and they get nervous, and they end up kind of shitting the bed and tumbling a couple spots the next week. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so Mr. Bus Wallace's power rankings the last 3 weeks have had 3 different number one teams. The next Sunday they have lost a game. So will the Titans lose this week? Yet to be determined. I'm picking against them, but their defense is playing well. So we talked about this yesterday as well. Who is the best defense in the NFL? And nobody brought up the Titans' defense, and I think arguably they might have the best defense in the NFL right now. What are your thoughts? Who do you think has the best defense between the Packers, Bills, and Titans?
Well, I think you could definitely make the case for the Titans. I think we talked about this last week. Jeffrey Simmons is looking like an all-pro player. They've got a couple other guys, D'Amico Autry on that front line, Chris Long Jr. as well. Byard, Kevin Byard has been one of the best safeties in the NFL over the last couple of years. He's just a ball hawking presence back there. So I definitely think you can make that case. However, Packers are also coming off a shutout, and they're looking like a strong unit. And Bills, they had 4 interceptions against the Jets. You could say they're one of the worst offenses in the league, and Mike White looked overwhelmed at times, or you could even say throughout that game. So you could probably make a case for all 3, but I will say the Titans, just based on what they've been able to do over the last several weeks. You think about that demolition of the Rams, the interception of Wentz, which really turned that game over in Lucas Oil Stadium about 3 weeks ago. So I think the Titans are riding a wave of momentum, forcing the football out, and I really like what I've seen.
All right, guys. So just to recap the top 10 here, he does have the Kansas City Chiefs coming in at 10. The New England Patriots, Suits boss New England Patriots coming in at number 9. The Ravens at 8. The Rams at 7. The Tampa Bay Bucks coming in at number 6. The Buffalo Bills at 5. The Dallas Cowboys at 4. Cardinals at 3. Packers at 2. And the Titans at number 1 for your Week 11 NFL Power Rankings. Before we let you go, Graham, out of those top 10, who are you putting in upset alert this week?
Upset alert. I will say upset alert. New England Patriots. They've won 4 in a row. I'm going to be honest, I haven't really taken a huge look at the next week's slate of games. But I know they're playing well, but that's got to end at some point.
Yeah, I believe they're playing the Titans next week, if I'm not sure. Let me check that. No, they're playing the Falcons. So they're playing Falcons on Sunday night
that's
game.
tomorrow night. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Falcons will get their revenge for the 28-3 game. Who knows? Maybe in hindsight, not a great pick.
They play the Titans the following week. But I do like that because they are traveling to Atlanta off of a huge win. Obviously, the 4-game win streak, winning 5 of their last 6. I mean, I'll roll with that. Soup Boss won't, but I'll roll with it.
Well, I mean, Falcons have to be embarrassed from their game, losing by 40 points. They might not win, but they don't want to get they don't want to get embarrassed again.
Well, let's be honest. The Falcons are been embarrassed since 2018 when they gave that 4th quarter Super Bowl lead up or whatever it was.
Oh my gosh,
they've been embarrassed.
I'll never forget that. Unbelievable.
All right, man. So we're going to let you go. Before we let you go, tell the people where they can find you on all social medias and whatnot.
Yeah, you bet. So at Bus Wallace on the Twitter machine, also on Instagram. Search for me there. Look for my articles on jaysjournal.com. I just had a 4-part series on the all-time Blue Jays roster. So go and take a look at that and let me know what you think. Bellyupsports.com, typically MLB tab. So there's going to be plenty of there's been plenty of free agent signings already. So I'm going to be keeping track of that. My last one was kind of a bit of a preview of the signings that have already started to happen. So take a look at me there. Always looking to talk some sports on Twitter. So holla at your boy at Bus Wallace on Twitter.
All right, man. We will catch you next week. And as always, thank you. We'll see you then.
Okay, we'll see you.
All right, guys. It is that special time of night. Are you guys ready?
It's a spill soup. Let the boss take the lead. Your predictions are all wrong. It's a spill soup. Your hot takes are bad. Let the soup boss bring it home. Spilled soup, spilled soup, spilled soup, spilled soup. Clear the way, the soup boss will lead the way. It's a spilled soup. Let's be honest, man, our needs some urgent help. Time for spilled soup.
And it is that time with Soup Boss himself, Spilled Soup. We missed last week because of tornadoes in freaking November. What's that all about, Soup?
It's actually been quite a bit here that we've had recently. Make sure you've unmuted me, by the way, Buck. You got me unmuted? You
No,
good? Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
I got you.
Just making sure.
We're good.
That's my first spilled soup moment right there. Is making sure my mic is unmuted.
Yeah.
But no, it's been crazy weather down in Oklahoma. Whatever. There's still far more tornadoes that have touched the ground in New England since I moved from there 7 years ago than in Oklahoma. So I'll take it. Until the big twister ends up hitting, and you won't hear from me for 3 weeks or something like that. But
Yeah.
But we'll take it. We'll take it. We got on here, nothing bad. We got some crazy winds and stuff like that, but nothing that's knocking out power or internet. So I could go on and actually, I gotta say, Buck, listen to a lot of the shows and the shorts and everything, and I gotta say, it's actually been a quiet kind of week and a half with the man hour. There's been some. There's been some elements of agreeing, even if everyone, you and Combs and Tori aren't fully agreeing, and the real Kevo, there's been elements of parts of things that you agree with. And I'm like, oh, look at this happy family right here. So I had to dig to do some things that I had to take the happiness out of this. And we got to go.
There we go. I like it when you get to dig. You have to dig through the grapevine to get to the cherry, right?
Well, first off, let me just throw. I didn't have to dig too much because you guys made it easy for me. Just a little shot at Graham. Doesn't take a Bills fan that long to just be like, well, the Patriots are up for a loss. Well, I don't know who they're playing or anything like that. To realize they're playing the Falcons. Yeah. I will give him credit, though, that if there is a time in which you can see a game that the Patriots, with their current win streak, let go, is this one, just because of the fact they may be looking ahead. And damn well Bill is probably happy they have a short week. They don't have time to have so much, the 6 days in between the games.
Right.
He gets some focus because they have the Titans, the Bills, the Colts, and then the Bills for 4 of the following 5 weeks with a bye week mashed in between, which is one saving grace for them. But make or break their season is going to come down to that stretch. So, but I figured I'd throw a little jab in at the Bills fan who's like, yeah, well, the Pats are up for a loss, because that they're sweating just a little bit right now.
100%. So let me ask you this question. Luke G brought this up last night, and I kind of have to agree with him just a tad bit there. Since the 17-game season has been implemented, we kind of see teams maybe taking the NBA approach and maybe taking a game off. Do you see that in the NFL at all?
In terms of fully taking a game off, no, I don't see that being a strategy, with the exception of the rule of near the end of the year. I think what you might see, which is really going to piss a lot of fans and fantasy fans on, which we're already dealing with. I don't know if you've noticed, Buck, but most leagues are still realizing just now, oh crap, playoffs start in week 15. Yeah. There are bye weeks in week 15. 4 solid teams. Pats, Colts are 2 of the teams. So leagues are shifting. Like,
yeah, shit. I didn't think about that.
See, exactly. Yeah. So you've got the schedule messing up the bye week element with the playoffs. So you've got a lot of leagues going, do we just go week 16 and 17 and just 2 week shoot them all, or what are we doing? But I think we're going to actually have an issue with the aspect of taking the last week off, which you've always seen top seeded teams or teams that got their locked in last week, week 17. They just kind of, don't play their starters, or they kind of give them most of the game off. But then what almost always happens, they come into the playoff game, and what are they? They're rusty. Right. They took time off. They lost their flow. I almost wonder if you're going to see some top seeded AFC and NFC teams that obviously have fantasy studs, week 17 now, give them time off, pull them out after Q1, Q2. It's okay. They don't need to have that worry about that win. And then go out week 18 full force to get the win for the focus of making sure that the players are running at full speed. They're gelled. They're not going into
Right.
the playoffs rusty, because only one seed from both leagues gets the bye week this year now.
Yep.
It's not the top two. So I actually wonder, is it a strategy going into the full season? I don't think it's a strategy. I think it will play into a strategy, though, when we get to week 17. Do teams rest their starters to give them that breather and to make sure they don't lose speed going into the playoffs by making sure they play week 18, which most fantasy leagues, if they haven't changed it already, have their fantasy lineup or weekend being week 17. I just predict it's going to be utter chaos. I think Vegas is going to be laughing their asses off about it. It's going to be a pretty crazy thing. So no, it's a great point. And I think it's going to more or less start to where you're going to see the real reflection comes down to what players like Tom Brady, what you even had with Albert Haynesworth when he came in up to New England before that, when he was in Washington, saying, why do I need to practice so much? Like, I get this. I've been in the same system. It's not a new system. It's not a new coach. A lot of those seasoned veterans that have the same coach, the same system, the same teammates and everything are probably in the preseason, those optional practices. They're not going to show up because the team is now going to look at it and go, okay, this is a longer season, and we'd rather you take off some time earlier in the season than later on. So there's a couple different ways I think it's still going to affect it no matter what. That's a long, grueling season. I don't care what anyone says. I play tackle football with people in the neighborhood. I can't walk for 3 weeks, for crying out loud. So, and these are grown men. I don't care what type of, type of shoulders and pads and everything they have. These are 300-pound men coming at full force with the goal of making millions of dollars to make sure you get put into the ground. It's a long season for them, especially if you get into the playoffs. So
I'm glad you brought up the week 17 thing. That's a great point. I didn't think about that. So I'm definitely going to keep that some food for thought and some ammo for Combs later.
Yeah, there you go. So as I said, this week has been a little, and I'm sorry, I'm still coming off of being pretty sick here. I was like, man, that Tory and Combs and Buck and the real Kevo, and I'm like, man, they even when they're disagreeing, they're finding ways to agree. Like, yeah, you know what? That's a good point. I'm like, this is going to be hard. I rewatched Shorts all day today, which, by the way, if you haven't liked this video, like it, share it, and go check out some of the shorts. Great way for you to dip into a show if you don't have a full 2 hours. Get into the shorts that Buck puts a lot of time in his day into those to give you guys a little bit of tidbits of what we're talking about. So I'm diving into those, and I come home from gym elements and stuff, and I throw up the show while I'm trying to get cleaned up and get prepared to get my mind right and get everything set up here. And Buck, I was like, I found 3 weak ones. And what did you do? You just walked right into Spilled Soup. 15 minutes into this show. First off, 15 minutes into any show, the green jersey, New Jersey team should not be any type of storyline on Man Hour until they learn to function as a team, okay? The New York Jets should not be a storyline. I know it's kind of slow right now, and I know you're not as much of a baseball guy, but AL Cy Young and NL Cy Young went out. We got Rookie of the Year awards in baseball. At least there's awards and stuff like that. You still get the Patriots coming on, as you said, 5 out of 6 in the Thursday night in the rematch of the Super Bowl. 15 minutes in, we're talking about Mike White and Zach Wilson.
Yep.
What a way to just scare away viewers, my friend. Like, how people are going to be 15 minutes into this and be like, is this a joke podcast? What is going on right now? Listen, let me be completely honest, because I know you and I have battled a lot about the sit 1 year, not sit 1 year. I'm no professional scout. I know I love to talk sports and everything like that. But let me tell you, as a Patriots fan, sitting there seeing Bill at pick 15, knowing we needed a quarterback. I know they had Cam, but let's face it. Everyone knew that Cam was not going to be the answer, right? He wasn't going to stay there long term. 1 year's here, there. They needed a quarterback. I was never, ever, and I know I'm not a scout, but I was never, ever big on either Trey Lance or Zach Wilson. I watched them play, and I thought Zach Wilson actually had some amazing games if you go back and look at BYU. But they were amazing games against extremely mediocre and crappy college teams. Right. You should be doing that if you're a good athletic competitor. Neither one of them translated into the game of the NFL. They just didn't. The two quarterbacks I thought from day one, and I said it well before draft day, were Justin Fields and Mac Jones. Those were the two quarterbacks I thought if there was a chance. So I thought there's no chance they're going to have them. And I was begging the gods, if Fields and Mac Jones are drafted early in this draft, please make sure all the other draft picks get picked up, because I do not want to see Zach Wilson or Trey Lance in a Patriots jersey. I just don't. So I know you and I have argued about this whole, like, do you sit him or do you not? Here's my focus on Zach Wilson. I don't care if you sit him for 5 years or pump him full of steroids every game. He's not a good NFL quarterback. Mike White was, as you said, drafted by another team, and I think this is his third team, is not a good NFL quarterback. You bring in an argument that Mike White is the right choice when you said, I looked at Zach Wilson's bad games, and then I looked at Mike White's bad games, and I said, that's the better option of the two. You're saying that he's the less stinkier pile of garbage or trash, and that's why they should stick with him. That makes absolutely no sense. They should stick with either one of them. And there's a reason why they're going to Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco, out of all the, hanging on the threads of an NFL career type player, still walks in that quarterback room with more skill and ability than those two players combined. Outside of the fact that I'm pretty sure that he's taken up the Jay Cutler approach, is probably smoking cigs out behind the bench and is hobbling around on a hip and is like, doesn't give two craps. And yet he'll still give them a better chance to win. That just shows, though, that they shouldn't be focused on Mike White. They shouldn't be focused on Joe Flacco. They need to just completely retool this. And I don't understand how you let two guys like Justin Fields and Mac Jones go off of the board and you just thought Zach Wilson was the option. I don't get it. I was happy as a Pats fan, but at some point, for the love of God, in order to keep self-induced pain to go to not increase in the largest city in America, you got to do something different. And Zach Wilson's not the option. But Mike White's not the option either, Buck. Why are you sitting here 15 minutes into this show hurting our viewers' ears with your comparison of the two? And neither one of them are even in the spot to start this weekend. Please defend yourself.
So first things first, this was not my idea to speak about this. I was in a thread and I happened to see this and I was like, wow, that's actually a really good point that this person made. They said, look at Josh Rosen and the Arizona Cardinals. When they brought in a new coach, they knew that Josh Rosen wasn't their guy. They let him go, cut him point blank, no questions asked, after 12 games that he started his rookie year. So with that being said, the reason why I said keep Mike White around was because of that same reason that Arizona let loose of Josh. It is that Zach Wilson is not your answer, so just cut your ties now. It is easier to rebuild after 1 year and a first round pick, than like the next year you you had that number one pick again. However, this year's NFL quarterback draft is not very good,
it's
right?
Not good.
Yes. So that's why you keep a quarterback like Mike White around, just because he can still rally the troops around him. He has that Garner Minshew effect, like, hey, I want to play. First things first, I hate the mustache mania. I absolutely hate it. I hate the guy with the passion. But for whatever reason,
you better back off of my boy Minshew. How dare you
is
put
trash.
Mike White in the same realm of Gardner Minshew?
You are right.
Here's
Gardner Minshew. Here's Mike White. Mike White is hands and shoulders over him.
Joke. You've seen Mike White play in 2.5 games, and what has he given you?
Yeah, he's given me 400 yards and 4 interceptions.
Yeah, 400 yards and 4 interceptions.
versus the best defense in the NFL, probably the Super Bowl winning Buffalo Bills.
Man, well, I won't jump into that because kind of what you guys were talking about with your power rankings and something said earlier this week, that'll be my next point. So we'll jump into that a little bit. I mean, I guess if your thought process was, listen, we look at ourselves as an organization and we realize that the Zach Wilson trade was a mistake. We need to cut ties. But here's the problem. The second anyone in any professional organization that's getting paid a lot of money to build a winner is able to say less than a year of a first round pick that this is a bust, you don't have a job anymore. It is your job to make the picks. It's not just the GM's job. Now, the GM ends up being the top person or the coach, such as in the Bill Belichick element, where he kind of does both. But even then, we were hearing about how much Bill Belichick this year was letting more people influence his decision and give him stuff, which meant that if all these picks flopped, it was going to be just as much as on them. You cannot, within less of a year, just say, this was a bad choice, we shouldn't go with it, because you're losing your job. So these people are not going to look at Mike White, who hasn't given them anything much more spectacular than Zach Wilson, and say, we need to cut loss. They're both garbage. They're both garbage, Buck. They both suck. So if they both suck, stick with your first round pick just for a little bit. Because as I saw with Sam Darnold, at least with that, you've got people that already bought the jersey, already were hyped up, and Zach Wilson once every 4 or 5 games has like a great game. He throws 350 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick, maybe rallies them close to win or something. That gets fans excited. No one has a Mike White jersey. No one knew who the hell Mike White. Hell, if you went and looked online when Mike White came in that game against the Patriots, people were thinking that this was some fake name. There are people that have been following football that had no idea who he was, what college he went to. They were literally saying, come on. This is like, what do you call it there? When you,
you've been punked or something?
When the FBI like hides you, witness protection program. They're like, Mike White, this is the most common name. This is not a real human being. No one knows who he is. Now, I will give you this. If Mike White were to go out 3, 4, 5 games in a row and make them competitive, pull out a win, like something maybe against the Tennessee Titans or something like that, then you could see it. But he's not going to do that. And that's why, to go back to my point there, when you beat a team like the Tennessee Titans, you have to go off of that. That is what your fan base has bought the jerseys for. That's why they were dumb to buy all the season tickets again, thinking that Zach Wilson was going to be the one, which to me, you just had to look at everyone at the table and realize Zach Wilson wasn't going to be an NFL caliber quarterback. But you just don't dump your first round pick and expect to keep your job and go with a guy that's giving you nothing better or anything different. You just stick with Zach Wilson for another year and a half. Like you said, you're right. The quarterback grouping here for college for the draft is not going to be good. Good. Maybe why don't you build your own lineup? Maybe build your defensive line. Here's the thing in the NFL. If you protect a quarterback to the point that they can hold a ball for 3.5 to 4 seconds, it's been shown that any quarterback's percentage of success goes up by about 15 points. You take Zach Wilson's mediocrity and give him 15% bump up, that equates to maybe 4 or 5 wins. People in New York will lose their flipping minds if he can get 5 wins. And then in the background, you can scout for it. You need to build offensive line and a defense. And they started a little bit with defense, and then they kind of filtered off of it. They got to build the support before they think just plopping in a superstar first-round quarterback is going to work. Because here's the thing. Mac Jones is doing great, but as you see with Justin Fields, when you don't have the right system and you don't put protection around them, they can't succeed. And that's the problem with the New York Jets. And Zach Wilson just sucks. So there we go.
Yeah, so you are agreeing with Tori. Zach is trash 100%. And I'm going to say this question for later down the road, but I'm just going to plant this seed and just to keep it in your mind a little bit. Does Jameis Winston go to New York because Russell Wilson is going to the Saints? So just sprinkle that in there and let it fermate.
I don't even know what you just blew my mind with I've not heard anything about Russell Wilson going to the Saints. So
he is not going to be in Seattle next year. The rumors are Packers and the Saints, and now the Browns are starting to come up as well.
I agree that he won't be in Seattle, but that's the first time of that. So if we want to play domino effect, that's definitely something we could do on another show, because I think if there's a domino effect element, you do, as a New York Jets, knowing there's not a good quarterback group coming up, go after that Jameis Winston style quarterback that may be available, that you then put in, and you go, hey, quarterback competition here in preseason, we brought in Jameis to help Zach Wilson, but we're not going to name Zach the starter, and it covers you from making a dumbass first round pick where you don't lose your job. you make the smart decision bringing in someone like Jameis Winston, and Combs right now is peeing his pants if he's listening to this. And then Jameis Winston goes in and proves how he's a better NFL quarterback than someone like Zach Wilson, and actually gets the Jets into a couple wins throughout the year by slinging the ball around with that arm that he has. So
all right, so
that's good. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah, so I do have a question from my man Havoc in the chat here. He is a Tennessee Titans fan, so take this with a grain of salt. He is living on this high right now for the Titans being number one in the power rankings. But he asked you, as a Pats fan, are you worried about the Pats versus Titans game in a couple weeks?
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. And that's why I said I think that it's a chance that the Falcons have an opportunity to drop this game. And I'm actually glad that it's a quick 3-day turnaround, because Bill gives them nothing but focus of, I mean, literally, you look at Mac Jones' post-game conference, and he said, me and the guys were just talking about it. We're literally talking about things for Thursday with Atlanta. Like, they didn't even celebrate that win against Cleveland, because when the game was done by halftime, they were already talking about it on the sideline and walking in the locker room. Why? Because Bill's already said 3 days, plus a travel. So the only reason that it helps them not focus on the Titans is because it was so quick. But that Titans game is going to be a true reflection of how far this Pats team has come. But I predict that the Titans are going to absolutely punch him right in the face. And it's good for Mac Jones. And it's good for this defense, because the defense is on fire. That's absolutely fantastic. I think what you will see is you'll see a running game by New England that's not really being talked about, and it should. That's setting up a lot of success for Mac Jones.
Right.
That's going to give them some garbage time, great plays, and maybe a couple touchdowns. But I expect the Titans to go in and knock the Patriots around by a good 18 points or so. The Titans aren't to be trifled with, and I think it's good for New England, because I think that will set New England up to know you don't sit here and dilly-dally and think you're doing well, and you get back to your roots, and you have 2 huge games against Buffalo and then one against Indy, and that can make or break the postseason for them. So
now, I am never a fan of a team walking in saying this is a good loss or like anything to that effect, but losing to the Tennessee Titans could be a good loss for the New England Patriots to get them that chip on their shoulder when they do travel to Buffalo for that Monday night game, like the
huge
following week. And I don't have the stats in front of me whatsoever, because this is totally off of the cuff, but I am pretty sure that Bill Belichick is the winningest head coach after a bye week. And you can consider this a bye week because they play on Thursday night and they're off for 4 days before they go back to work. So
yeah, they have that little bit of a gap there. The other nice thing is with the schedule, they play the Bills on a Monday night and then have the bye week and go and play Indy. So there's some benefits there for them. But it's looking at this, I'm worried if they go and beat Tennessee and are on this cloud 9, because then at that point they're 8-4,
right?
Probably first or maybe the half game behind thing, because I don't know when Buffalo has a bye week. They could be tied, they could be a game ahead. I don't know, somewhere around there. And then you walk into Buffalo thinking, oh, you guys thought that we were dead, like we're coming to get you. And Buffalo is just going to be grounded on, who the hell do you think you are? As opposed to getting punched in the face by Tennessee, they go back to the locker room. Bill goes, what the hell did I tell you guys?
Right.
You're not there yet. What do you think this is? A joke? And then all of a sudden you eat that big piece of humble pie. That was a big part of the Patriots culture a few years back. And he gets them grounded. He gets them out there in shorts in the winter weather. He's running them around, and they go and they play Buffalo with some grit in their teeth. I really think if they go and they beat Tennessee, it will be a negative thing for them. Of course, it'll be good in terms of tiebreaker scenarios and everything like that, but I think it sets them up for more failure for the next 3 games as opposed to getting smacked in the teeth. So I'm okay. Now, I would also be okay with them losing in a close game where it shows them, just like with Dallas and just like with Tampa, we're close, but we're still not there yet. You could still spin that too. So either get smacked in the teeth or that close loss. But I don't want to actually see them go out and beat Tennessee by 20. I think that could set them up for failure.
Yeah, and also your guys' coach is always really good at playing his cards close to the vest when there's a potential playoff matchup, this time
100%.
a year. So he doesn't want to show them too much.
Exactly.
So you're going to get a very vanilla defense and like offense. So Alpha Rob is a Buffalo Bills fan. If you mind, if I jump in the comments here a little bit, he says the Bills, the Bills will be ready for the Pats. They are always up for division games. Alpha Rod is a Buffalo Bills fan, so obviously there's going to be some headbutting here. I mean, it is a division game. They're always going to be up. I mean, there's no lie about that. Yeah,
it's going to be so good. And what was good about it was the fact that last year, the Patriots obviously were not a good team. They lost so many players to the COVID, bailout element, and then Cam was Cam Newton, and it just wasn't. We kind of saw some sprinkles of some good stuff where they almost won that game against Seattle, and there was like, could this, and it just wasn't the same. And when the season really hit, Pats fans, it gave most of them a reality check. We're still holding on, like there's still a chance for the playoffs. I think they went to Buffalo and lost something like 41-17.
Yeah.
The Bills just walked all over them, top to bottom. And I think one of those touchdowns at the end for the Pats was a garbage one. It was a joke. It was a one-sided affair from the time the ball was snapped. Josh Allen is out to prove, and I know that you guys argued with Torrey a little bit and with Combs about his whole contract thing. I don't care about the contract element. The fact of the matter is Josh Allen's out to prove that he's the next. I'm not saying the next Tom Brady, but he's the next top quarterback of this division.
Yeah.
And you've already got a guy in Mac Jones that's starting to get a lot of praise. And you think that Josh Allen, and I heard you say like he had average year, and then great year. I think Torrey said it.
Yeah.
No, he had average year, better year, better year. Josh Allen has continued to get better and better and better to an MVP level. And in fact, was the number 2 rated quarterback from week 10 to 17 the last 2 seasons in all of the NFL back-to-back years. He's not looking for Mac Jones to come in with his rookie self and all of his hype to come in and to take that spot from him. Josh Allen's going to go out in that field and absolutely do everything he can to try to manhandle that defense. I think that's where the Pats have a little bit of a different run this year, is that they've got a good defense. But I think they split those 2 games. I think they go 1-1 each. I really do.
Yeah, and just to add to your point, I don't think Josh Allen is trying to be the replacement to Tom Brady in that division. I think he is looking to be the replacement of Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady in the NFL. He is looking to be in that MVP conversation year in and year out, and rightfully so. Big, strong arm, clear leader of that team. They just need to rely on the running game a little bit more. But spilled soup number 2.
Yeah, number 2. I've got 3 things to choose from because of the whole Mike White thing. I had to jump then in here. So instead, I've got to pick one of these here. We're not going to go into basketball, so I think that'd be fun to get on with Torrey, because Torrey made some great points about the Ben Simmons thing and everything like that. I've been from day one saying how Brown was better than Tatum. And everyone on Sports Soup will be able to back that up. So I'd love to be able to go deeper to that, maybe with him on a future show.
That's a Wayne G thing. Yeah.
Yeah, with Wayne and with Torrey. Yeah, I think that'd be great to get on there and really talk about that. But I just seeing we're talking football, and you just had the power rankings. Buck, in one of the shows in the past week and a half, you said that the Titans defense was better than the Packers. And you said your reason for it was that the Packers still lost a horrible game in week 1. And you said that they have to come back from that. And I'm trying to figure out why a week 1 loss, as bad as it was, for sure, but week 1, which, as we've seen year after year, usually things that happen in the first couple of weeks do not reflect what a team is by the end of the year. In reverse, Pittsburgh last year was not the 11-0 team that they made themselves out to be. They had one bad week 1, and have been nothing but stellar and concrete since then. The Tennessee Titans have a heck of a defense, and I love seeing what Vrabel's doing down there. Obviously, it was part of the whole Belichick tree and whatnot. It's about time we see some good out of that, because normally coaches coming from Belichick aren't as good as like the Andy Reid tree. Right. But anyways, they got smacked around by the Cardinals, who you continue to say is not actually a good team. They were walloped by the Arizona Cardinals. They were then walloped by the Zach Wilson-led New York Jets, all since week 1. So, sir, please, for the love of God, do something more than tell me why the Green Bay Packers are not potentially the best defense in the NFL besides what happened in week 1. Because the only point you made was in week 1, they somehow had a terrible game and they've had to come back from that. But you sit here and you shed all this grace on the Titans defense, who is definitely top 5 defense in the NFL, in my opinion, but have had 2 weeks that have been horrible since week 1 in comparison. And yet somehow you think they're not on the same level. Are you kidding me, Buck? Can you give me something besides week 1 for the Packers?
Yes. So you took that out of context. I said for the overall NFL ranking as far as the stats wise go, because they do the stats for all 17 games, just not the last 5 or the last 3, right? So that is what I was speaking out. Just because they had such a bad week 1, their overall ranking in the NFL defensive side brings them down in the NFL side of things. But if you look back to their last 3 weeks alone, the Packers are the hands down the best NFL defense out there. They held Kyler Murray to a QBR of 56. Patrick Mahomes was a 30, and then what quarterback they play? Russell Wilson. They held him to like a 17 or a 16, and shut Russell out for the first time in 166 games. I think it was.
Why were you debating Combs that the Titans were still a better defense? Because you made those points. You made those great points, which were recent activity.
Right.
And Combs brought that up, and you said, but that's just recent. As a whole, they are not as good because of what happened in week 1. And you brought up no element of the fact that the Titans just let out defensive crap bombs against the Jets and the Cardinals.
So the reason why I think the Tennessee Titans defense overall is better than the Green Bay Packers is because the Titans and the Cowboys as well, they play a bend don't break kind of defense. Yeah. They keep people out of the end zone, and they get a lot of timely interceptions. The Green Bay Packers don't necessarily play that style. They want to get a three and out to get Aaron Rodgers back on the field so they can get a lead and play with their ears back. That is why I think the Titans and Cowboys are better, because they know their identity. The Green Bay Packers are still trying to find out who they exactly are on the defensive side of the ball. They have found it the last three weeks. I will give you that hands down. But will they continue? That is yet to be determined, because the true Jalen Smith hasn't came out yet. The cancer that he is. So we will see what Jalen Smith does moving forward.
I almost was going to bring in OBJ stuff because the whole cancer thing, and I said, you know what, we've had enough OBJ, so I didn't even bring that in. But we can't go with, I think, until we see the true element of that. We haven't seen it. Maybe sometimes some players, speaking as a Patriots fan, get a little bit change of scenery, and guess what happens?
You're exactly right.
They actually do pretty damn well, because sometimes it's just a coach smacking them in the face and saying, listen, I don't care who you are, but you're a damn good player and a damn good athlete, and we could use you, but not if you're going to act that way. And guess what? Suddenly the players know how to play, and they do a damn good job at it. And I'm talking as a Patriots fan who is happy to see what Vrabel's doing, because the Patriots defense has always been bend don't break. Even when people cite the Patriots defenses for winning the early Tom Brady Super Bowls, which they are correct in doing that, they still weren't a stomp you in the face type of defense. It was bend don't break. It creates longevity, but it does not, to me, mean that you are a better defense. Why? Because you give the opportunity to be bent to a point that you can't be unbent. Defenses that smack you in the mouth, and they start in today's league being smacking the quarterback in the mouth first, will always be better and always win. And take it from me as a Tom Brady, New England Patriots fan, that watched the Giants defense rip through the center of the O-line, and their goal in both of those Super Bowls were 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And they were saying, let's get Eli Manning back on the field. That's how confident they were in themselves, instead of stretching it out, pick off Brady in the end, in the red zone. You get through the line, you put the pressure on the quarterback, you make them uncomfortable, you make a Kyler Murray not be able to fully throw it at its full function outside of the pocket. You make a Russell Wilson have to go backwards. You notice that game, they kept coming right up the middle and hitting him towards, like, pushing the offensive lineman down towards his legs, so that when he wanted to roll out, he was having to do that while he's already back straight backwards.
Right.
Now he's rolling out, instead of 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage, he's rolling out 15, 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That's what you do. You smack a quarterback in the mouth, you take him off his game, and then unless you completely flip your offensive scenario in which you go to run heavy, or you do what Sean Payton did against the Patriots, and he switched and brought in Taysom Hill and all of a sudden confused the defensive scenario, you take the defense out of the game. If you can't do that, you will never beat that defense. If you want to bend, don't break, I know it works very well. But if you kept letting great offenses get into your side of the field, to the 30, to the 20, to the 25, you give an opportunity for a couple of those drives to end up in points. If you smack them in the teeth back in their own 20 and they got a punt out of their end of the field and you're getting the ball around the 50, that's how you play football. And that's how the Packers are playing it this year. And outside of that one crappy week 1 game,
right,
if you take that out, there's been no defense in the NFL in my book, even more than the Cardinals, who I've been very high on. As I've looked at the body of work as of now, there's no defense that's doing that element better than the Green Bay Packers, because the Cardinals defense was actually doing that to start the year, and they've shifted into this bend, don't break scenario. And I think you're seeing some weakness because of that. Go hit the quarterback, put him on the ground. Slam them. You might get a roughing the passer call. Let it be. Go up and hit them again, because the next time you hit them, they're going to actually shrug and get scared and hit the ground before you even touch them. And then you're just putting your hands on them. They go to the ground, and now it's 3rd and 23 instead of 3rd and 5. That's the difference between hard hitting and bend, don't break. And because of that, the Packers are a better defense. Now you just have to stay healthy. That's the challenge in those type of defenses.
Right. So on the flip side of that, when you play a bend, don't break defense, is because your front four cannot get pressure on the quarterback per se. Now the reason why the Arizona Cardinals are playing this bend, don't break defense now is because of the loss of J.J. Watt for this season. Yes, they still have Chandler Jones and all this, and like those other boys, but when you have J.J. Watt to balance out Chandler Jones, it's much easier to get pressure up like up the field. And that's exactly what the Packers did to the Cardinals, is they did not know how to fully execute their bend, don't break defense per se, because J.J. Watt, I think, got injured like that Tuesday, I think it was, and they played 2 days after that. So I see what you're saying about getting pressure on the quarterback, popping him in his mouth, but you have to have the personnel to do that. And I don't think the Titans nor the Cowboys, or hell, even the Arizona Cardinals, like at this point, have that personnel to pop you in your mouth repetitively without sending big blitzes.
But the Packers do, and that's why right now they are, not just the last couple weeks, but as an overall, been able to put together the better body of work to make them, in my opinion, the best defense in the NFL right now.
Which like honestly, you could probably flip flop the Packers, Bills, and Titans, and you would have a legitimate argument for each one. So I definitely give you that 100%. But I was trying to boost up the Titans fans a little bit, because they are going to lose 5 games in a row.
You've already been so wrong with that one. That was the easiest spilled soup session I've ever had with you, Buck. That was horrible. That and your 11 win Lions predictions have just been god awful. Those are big reaches.
If you listen to my man Kevo, they are 11-win team at heart. They're still there.
Every team is a 17-win team at heart. They don't start the season going, damn, man, I hope we just get one win. They all go out with fire in their belly going, we're going to go out here and win every damn game. Like, that's the point. They're grown men. They're professional football players thinking that every year is their chance. It's just when they get smacked in the mouth, they get to find out who they truly are. You can be rah 11-win team in your heart. That's great. Good for you. Here's your blue ribbon. But the Detroit Lions are not that. I'll be shocked though, man. I got to tell you, I did not think that they would go winless in the year. I thought they'd get 2 wins.
Yeah.
I'm actually starting to wonder if they'll go winless. They got the tie, so they won't be 0-17.
Right.
But I don't know if they're going to get a win now, Buck. I really don't know.
Why did they go after Odell? Like at least try.
Yeah. You've got the cap space for it.
Yeah.
You've got and Jared Goff, though not a great quarterback, has been shown if you get him a really good. You telling me Jared Goff, OBJ would walk up to him and his dad would be like, "You're gonna throw me the ball." He'd be like, "Yes, sir. Yeah, I will. Sure." Because who else is he gonna throw it to? He doesn't even throw it to his own star tight end who got 0 points last week in fantasy. Of course, he's gonna throw it to OBJ.
Yeah.
And his dad, to his credit, showed a 4-game stretch in which OBJ was wide open. Jared Goff's going to hit like 30% of those passes at least. Let him do it.
So
they should have done it.
So you're on TikTok, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you follow that, like that Annie girl? She's on like Fox Sports and she does like all the NFL skits.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
a lot of them. Like,
Yeah. So she just released one this afternoon, and it's Jared Goff, and it is Odell Beckham Jr. running wide open, and he throws it like 15 yards over his head, and like he's like, "This is why I went to LA." So it's just.
I think the problem is that if it's Jared Goff, he would throw it 15 yards too short into the ground,
Right.
not over his head. I think that's the difference. So.
All right, Soup. Thank you as always for joining us every Wednesday. I appreciate it. Spilled Soup is quickly becoming the most popular segment here because.
Ooh. Because I come on and yell at you guys?
Yeah, well, because you come with facts, you know. I mean, I am still blown away by that fact of the quarterback sitting a year stat. Like, I had no idea that was even like a thing. So, yeah, I mean,
Got to bring the data, baby. You got to bring the data. It's all about Billy Bean analytics.
Did it change it? Did it change my mind? No, still,
Of course it didn't.
Still quarterbacks at a year.
Hey, people say stupid. I'm sorry, man. That's just the way life is.
All right, man. I appreciate it. I was catching next week. Hopefully, Combs is on, so you can yell at Combs next week.
Hey, that'd be good. Hey,
right.
and if you need me tomorrow, let me know.
Will do, boss. All right, later, bud. All right, guys, that is going to be it for tonight's show. As always, thank you guys for joining me, joining the crew. We had Graeme on for the power rankings. As always, be sure to follow him on Twitter at Bus Wallace on Twitter. You can also become a part of Spilled Soup's Facebook group. It is the Spilled Soup After Dark, I believe it is. I will post the group in the description below, so guys, you guys can check that out as well. And but yeah, Havoc says, Buck, you made a great point and you went and fucked it up. So thanks, I guess. I'm not for sure how that goes, but we out, guys. Have a great night.